Hey everyone, welcome to today's Icehouse podcast. I'm Bryar Stewart, the Community Manager at the Icehouse, and today we're chatting with Hamish, who is the CEO of Global Endeavours Group and was part of our Owner Manager Programme 34, which is probably a few years ago now, but really looking forward to chatting with Hamish about his journey as a business leader and a business owner and where he is today. So thanks heaps, Hamish, for being on the podcast.
No problem at all.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I like to start with this question because it's open and it's up for interpretation, but tell the listeners about yourself. Who is Hamish?
I'm just probably just a regular Kiwi really, a Kiwi bloke. Sort of just born and bred on a farm in the Rangitikei. Love the outdoors, love to keep fit, passionate about New Zealand and New Zealand business. Pretty high energy, I'd say. And I just like to get things done.
So cool. That's awesome. And we'd love to hear a bit about your career journey and your business and where things are at now.
Yeah, cool. I'll go back to university days. So basically started uni down at Otago back in 1998 and started off doing PE and tourism down there actually. Didn't have a clue what I really wanted to do at that time. So I think I came out with marketing and management after 4 years and finished up at Lincoln University and then went in, did a postgrad diploma through Massey University in finance. So it wasn't really until I was about sort of my mid-20s where I sort of thought finance, the finance and the commercial side was really where I wanted to head. So basically straight out of uni, worked in the FMCG space for a company called BAT, British American Tobacco. It was the only place I could get a job at the time. And I had a couple of years there, which to be fair, was a really good company to work for as far as, obviously tobacco is a bit of a dark category. And so they had to do things very professionally. Had really good systems and processes and all the rest of it. But 2 years there, then went on the big OE over to UK and Europe. Had a couple of years over there where I just did travel jobs, worked on farms, did a bit of labouring and that sort of thing. And then I sort of I got a little bit bored, or I thought I could do better. So I came back home to New Zealand to do my skydiving license actually. So I thought if I get my skydiving license, then I can start a business as a skydiving instructor and a skydiving business. And that was sort of where I thought my passion was going to be. But that career was quite short-lived after I had a bit of an accident on about my fifth jump. And I got back into the FMCG space after that. I also had about a month on a drop zone and the weather was pretty average as well, thinking, this is not really where I want to, I'm probably a little bit highly strung and impatient. So but I'll get back into the business side of things in the FMCG space. So worked in that space for a while. While I was doing that, I was also investing in property and commercial property. Probably took a few risky investments on I did take a few risky investments on trying to get ahead in my 20s. And also invested in the share market just prior to 2008, 2009, the financial crisis. So absolutely got dealt to over that time. So basically, had to start from scratch, I suppose, from my late 20s. From a career point of view, I was in the FMCG space and worked at Goodman Fielder, and then at a company called Kerry New Zealand, which was a food commodity specialist for 2 years. And I had an opportunity in 2009 to go into business with a couple of other guys in competition to one of the big corporates I was working for. And so we sort of had to back ourselves, really, having the relationships and trade and all the rest of it. And that was the natural sugars business. That was our first business in the Global Endeavours Group. And that's how we got started, really.
How cool. That is so awesome. Did you think I guess it does make sense in the food industry, in that role that you were in. But that's so cool that you realized quite early on, it sounds, that you wanted to be in business and that, you just had a fire within you to have something of your own. Yeah,
100%. I suppose that's probably a little bit of an upbringing. My dad, my dad was a farmer, is a farmer still. And I was at a school in Palms North Boys High School, and a lot of my friends' parents were all self-employed. So it was one of those things that you sort of had to you sort of had to run your own cutter, I suppose, to get ahead. And a lot of my friends now are, have got their own companies. So, but most in the lower North Island or in the South Islands.
Yeah, cool, awesome. And so, what businesses come under the Global Endeavours Group?
So we've got 5 businesses. So firstly, Natural Sugars, which was started in 2009. It's a food commodity business. So really specialising in sugar and edible oil. So we supply, the likes of food manufacturers. We supply the agriculture industry, the apiculture and viticulture, in the apiculture and viticulture space. The food service. So your likes of your Bid Foods, Skillmore, Service Foods, and that those sort of companies, and they supply restaurants and cafes, and then we also supply the supermarkets. So
awesome.
So quite varied. And then so that business sort of grew from pretty quickly, really. But I suppose when we started, when I first went into business, my goal was always to build New Zealand brands and products and sell them to the world. So I've always had that. I suppose they had that goal, as the end goal, I suppose. So we started off in food commodities. In 2014, we bought a company out of receivership in Tauranga, and it had the reason why we purchased that was because we wanted to get into liquid sugar and invert sugar, because there was an opportunity in the agriculture space there, and just ironically, I suppose it just had a couple of bottling lines in there, and because we were supplying sugar to a few of the beverage companies in New Zealand, we talked to them and said, look, is there an opportunity to contract manufacture for you in the beverage space? And a couple of customers said, yeah, look, we'd be all over it if you had a glass line in there. We didn't have a glass line in there, but we just went and purchased then we went and purchased a glass line out, a pretty nice glass line out of Italy, and sort of bought that in on the back of on a contract with two customers. So so that the pure bottling business evolved rapidly, from starting with I think 3 or 4 staff down there, and one old bottling line, to now having, I think we've got 6 or 7 bottling lines down there now, from manufacturing everything from your high-end health tonics right down to RTDs, and your juices, sports drinks, and spirits, and everything in between, really. So
wow.
So that was 2014. In 2018, we started the Premium Liquor Company. The reason why we started that was pure bottling as a 100% contract manufacturer, and still is, always will be. All the businesses are run quite separately. But what we sort of knew early on, the manufacturing businesses are really hungry beasts. So if you lose a customer, or one of our, what's quite likely in our environment is we're dealing with a lot of privately owned beverage companies. So it only takes one of them to get bigger and get bought out by another one, or to not make it, or to decide that they want to change contract manufacturers for some reason. It's really important that we're in control of our own destiny a little bit. So
yeah,
basically we started at the time, we weren't bottling any liquor products for anyone. So we went, well, let's get into the liquor space. At least then, we've got some throughput through our own control, I suppose. And and that business has grown pretty quickly as well. So we're pretty lucky to have a really strong team on. And then last year we had we started our global. We sort of started executing our global strategy, and so we set up business in Australia. We've been selling to Australia for a while now, but we thought we'd set up office there. So we set up Global Endeavours Australia, which sort of represent all of our, the 3 companies in New Zealand. And then we got into the plant milk space as well. So a business called Plant Projects, which is also growing at a pretty rapid rate. And it's incredible how fast oat milk is becoming part of the average person's diet now.
Wow, I am mind blown. Like, how do you wake up every morning and split your time between 5? Obviously, you've got a great team. How big would your team be now, and what does a day in your life look like in that sense? Sorry, we're going off script, but I'm just
no, that's right. No, that's fine. Yeah, so I've got about 110 staff
wow.
at the moment, and so I really, it's really tough. It's been really hard to take a step back from everything, I suppose. That's the first thing. So the last part of the business that I gave up really was the treasury and trading function. The guy started 2 years ago, and really only passed everything over to him about probably in the last 12 months, because I knew that if things were right in that space, then we could probably weather a lot of storms, I suppose. So and then it's just about getting the right leadership team on, the right management. So the way we set things up is I've basically got a general manager in each company. I've got a really strong CFO. And then, the natural sugars teams was pretty much broken into two sectors. We've got the commercial side, which we've got a really strong guy there, and then in the retail side, we've got a strong marketing team, and then a strong operations team as well. So it's really having that trust in your key staff, and that's probably one thing that the Icehouse really taught me. So
yeah, that's really great. Oh, cool.
So sorry to go back to your question about where do I spend my time. I go one where my time is needed, and one where I can make most of the difference. And I suppose my strengths are in the commercial side and in numbers. So I'm across numbers all the time. So as long as I know that the business is going all right, then I can look for other opportunities. But new businesses take a lot of time, so you're generally spending more time on the newer businesses than the other ones.
Totally, that makes completely
sense.
Wow, very cool, high capacity person, which is great, and very cool, really effective leadership team, it sounds like. And that's not easy, building an effective leadership team that has your back and that you can trust. Takes time. So looking forward to more of this conversation, with the next question being, what is one thing you wish you knew at the start of your business journey?
There's probably a couple of things. One is that, I suppose I always knew I'd go into business, but I never knew how much sort of energy and how dedicated you have to be in it. I suppose if you've got, there's all these different companies now, right? So you've got all your SaaS companies, and I suppose we're a very traditional business, I suppose by means of that, we're bringing in real food, real products, and we're selling them to, traditional customers. One is because we're in a competitive space, it just means that you can never ever be complacent. And as soon as you think you're getting ahead, you get a kick in the butt, and it's we've been really lucky. We've grown at 25% year on year since the end of year one. So and we had a really good year one as well. So, and that's not a bragging sort of things. It's just we have grown, but I've probably grown more from fear that that there's always somebody chasing you, and there are, there's always somebody ready to sweep the blood off the floor, if you drop something. So just obviously not being complacent. 10 years, the first 10 years of business, so we're in year 13 now, I think. But it is, you're just giving things 100% the whole time. And so that's one thing. It's just I didn't know how much energy would be required, even though I love it. It's just there's a lot of energy and you're sacrificing a lot, and people around you are sacrificing a lot because you have to do that. And the other one is just probably, and it comes down to numbers, is just your P&L versus your cash flow, right? You can be a profitable company, but if you're growing, you need more cash, and it's just about managing that cash side of things. So and that's something that we pride ourselves on. But it's we're in the food ingredient space, so it's it's a high value but low margin, so we sort of always have to be on top of that. So
wow, great answer. And following from that, do you have any advice for a budding business owner, or someone that's wanting to start their own business or in early days?
One, I'd just say it's not for the faint-hearted, but I 100% recommend it. And you can make any excuse. I talk to a lot of people that say, "Oh, look, it's life stage. I've got a mortgage, or I've got a family now, or whatever." But I don't know how much more security you've got either working for somebody now in this, in the modern day environment, or whether you have going out by yourself. I know that when you do go out on your own and go into business, and your options is sink or swim, you generally want to swim. And the other thing is that I would, budding entrepreneurs that don't know what they want to do, I think, don't know what business they want to go into, is look at the businesses that are a little bit ugly or not cool, because everyone wants to be in these cool businesses, but they're the most competitive. So if you can go into businesses that are a little bit, at least cool, less fancy, and you can go and do something with them, then you can get to your, I suppose in a way it's not, not that the food ingredient business is a high margin at all, but that's always given us a start in cash to be able to start our other businesses. So.
Totally. That's some really great advice. Thanks, Hamish. Awesome. Highlight and challenge from your journey.
Oh, geez, it's been so many. Highlights for me, like there's been a lot, and again, I'll probably come back to numbers that we've grown each year, and I never ever feel comfortable still. Like I always feel that there's somebody chasing us. So it doesn't matter where you're at. So it's the highlights come from small things all the time, really. That continuous improvement. We're BR, I think we're the only BRC certified bottling plant in New Zealand, which is one of the global certification, which is means that our processes and systems are at the very top level. Building brands is always quite cool when you can see a brand that you've put so much effort and time into, and it's out on the shelf and people are enjoying those brands. That's the small things. Building really strong teams, like getting the right people on. I suppose my strength is probably not actually building the teams, but it's about getting the right people on board to build the teams. Having a great culture. Cultures, we set a platform for culture, whereas we've got an office that I think most people come into and go, wow, this is pretty cool. But that doesn't create a good culture. It lays a framework, and it's about every single one of our staff knowing that they're empowered to really make something of their workplace, really. Challenges, like again, I've talked about that sink or swim sort of philosophy before, but like I've had so many sink or swim moments in the last 13 years where I'm like, how the hell are we going to get out of this one? And I'm driving to work just going, we're in trouble this time. But and I'm probably not the most creative person, but it's amazing how creative you can be when your options are sort of live or die.
Wow.
And I think I remember back in 2017, which is the day I think it was in August 2017, which wherein pure bottling had been around for 3 years at the time. It wasn't making money. We were throwing everything at it. And basically I was working sort of on the night shift at the time. So I was running 24 hours, 7 days a week. We shouldn't have been running that. We should have only been at 12 hours, 5 days, but we were so inefficient because there's so many learnings and all the rest of it, that, we had to do that. And it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I watched a forklift come into our factory, and it dropped a 1 ton bag of sugar onto one of the bottling lines and dismantled it. And just water going everywhere. And half an hour later, I watched another forklift hit one of the pasteurization pipes on the other line, and that got wiped out. And then my CFO, who's an absolute champion, he sent me through the financials at about 3 o'clock in the morning after I'd just left the office, and we had a big loss for the previous month that we thought we had done all right. So I think that was probably my lowest point, whereas you're throwing everything at it. Like I had a really young family at the time, based in Auckland, but pretty much living down in Tauranga to get things right. And then I think I got back to my hotel, and I lay on the floor of my hotel, and I went, this is I give up. I give up. This is I've done my dash here. But yeah, like I think that only lasted about 5 minutes, and then you sort of get back up, and you come back a hell of a lot stronger. So it's not for the faint-hearted, and it's been a hell of a journey. But I think it's through these hard times and through these mistakes and through all of the risks that you take that make you way more resilient, and make it, you just learn so much more from the tough times than you do from good times.
So inspiring, and inspiring for anyone listening that is at that point, and going, I just don't even know if this is worth it, in terms of business, and really inspiring to hear that, you can bounce back and give it your all, and the resilience and grit that it does take, for sure. Would love to hear how you first heard of the Icehouse, and then how you got involved.
So we went into business in 2009, and there's a few suppliers that and customers that had been on the Icehouse course that it used to come up in conversation a little bit.
Cool.
And I just wasn't ready, really. It was 2015 that I went on, so 6 years in. I finally committed to it in 2014, but like a lot of people starting up, you just know how much you're throwing at your business. Like there's just no time, right? But I finally sort of made the time to go on the Icehouse course, and I still remember the first day at Icehouse, and with a whole lot of these business owners around the table, and it's quite daunting, because you don't know how you track or anything versus all of these other people and what their businesses are, and it's just sort of like your first day of school, I suppose, when you're meeting new people, but in a little bit of a different environment. But I think I use a scenario a little bit. I mean, I tell a few people about this, but basically the first time I thought, oh, this is quite good. There's some good people on there, and then I'm on the way to the second block, and I'm driving down the motorway going, oh, geez, I don't need this. I've got bloody too much going on, and it's not until I think the block 3 of the Owner Manager Program, and you go, wow, this is really awesome. And then I couldn't really wait for the 4th and 5th one, and you've grown this rapport with the other participants, and you're talking a lot more freely and honestly and openly, and you learn where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, because in a way it's like a really a quick university course where you come back in, they go through all different parts of your business, really, whether it be IP or finance or marketing or sales, resilience, all of these different things. But I think you come out of it and you go, well, this is where where you're really weak on it. Where you're really weak, and where you're really strong. So I suppose that's when you ask yourself and go, look, do I want to get better at the things that I'm weak at, or do I employ people to do that? And then the old working on the business rather than in the business. So cliche, but so bloody important. So yeah.
No, that's gold. And I always hear that where people say like, oh, I felt like it was my first day of school all over again. But the connections made over those blocks, yes, in the room on program, but also afterwards, and the activities that you do, definitely form some really strong connections. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Any changes that, casting your mind back a bit, but any changes that you made to your business, but also your lifestyle that came from the program?
Yeah, 100%. So that again, working on it rather than in it. So I made some changes pretty quickly. So I put people in places that, in positions that I was looking after, and I realized really quickly that they're probably better at it than I was anyway. But that's really hard to do, and it was sort of like your head's buzzing for 6 months afterwards, because you're going, geez, I'm doing this, and is this the right thing to do? And because you've been so busy for so long, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, I've got a bit of time. But and it's that, I suppose it's always that fear that you go, well, geez, because cash is not, you haven't got a hell of a lot of cash floating around, or we didn't at the time. It's like, oh, well, what happens if this doesn't go right? We're spending money on this position or this person or this resource, and it doesn't pay off. And that's always, or are we going to break bank covenants? So it's all of these things, just managing the finances. But working on the business rather than in it was the major change for me, and probably the biggest change that I've had that I've made, in my whole business career, really. And it's been huge. But I still stand by the fact you really do need to do those hard yards in those first few years, and it's about an individual perspective on when that timing changes. So
yeah, no, it's good perspective for sure. Anything comes to mind from a lifestyle perspective?
Look, from MP, I mean, when you're working on it rather than it, you have to have more time. But that took 10 years to have more time, I suppose. Balance, I don't believe in balance. Like balance is like this. It's that's life. There's night and day. You're asleep and you're awake and all the rest of it. There's good times and bad times, and I think at times you've got to work your ass off, and at times you enjoy a bit of freedom. So, but yeah, definitely. I mean, I make sure I take holidays off with the kids at every school holidays. That's really important to me, and spend time with family over summer. So January's are non-negotiable, really, and to go away on holiday and enjoy it, and then come back and you're revamped, and you go hard for another year, I suppose. But look, I suppose it's about doing what you want to do too, right? So I mean, I love business, and I love meeting people, from all over the world, and dealing with just good people. And one of our mottos with business is just doing great things with great people. And so if I get to do that every day, then I'm pretty happy. It's not really like work. So.
Yeah, exactly. No, great answer. Have you kept any really strong connections with anyone from your cohort? What's your cohort?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we've got about 6 or 7 of us that catch up quarterly. Probably we haven't. I mean, because of COVID, it was probably only 2 or 3 times last year. But great bunch of people, all with different perspectives. It's quite funny. We've got, of the 6 or 7 people that were in that we catch up with. Two are close to retire, or one's sold out of the business. In private equity, we came in, and he's in his early 50s, and he's living the good life now. And another one also has got to that stage where he's handing things over to family members or whatever. But there's 4 guys there from Icehouse that I'm dealing with in business, day to day. One guy's in insurance. We have all our insurance to him. One's we sell a bit of sugar to, and we also buy some ingredients off them. One's in recruitment, so we use them as our recruitment company. One I've bought vehicles off for our company. So, so it's not just doing good things with good people, great things with great people. It's one of the things that that we stand by, and now we can do business together. That's great. So
yeah, that makes me so happy. Favorite part of my job is just seeing alumni connect together and do business together, essentially, and jump on the phone or flick emails and just help each other out. And it's just really strong networking community, especially within cohorts. So very cool to hear. Yeah. And to think that a cohort that did Owner Manager Programme a few years ago now are still catching up regularly is pretty special. So nice, love to hear it. Who is one person that has been influential in your business journey?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I was thinking about this. I don't know if there hasn't actually been one person. There's been probably a number of people, and that comes from people that support you. My family have always been quite supportive, and my brother's really good. He's always lends an ear. He's always got a really controlled, balanced view on things. So I talk to him, and he hears what I have to say from time to time. But there's also the people that are the doubters, and the people that thought, oh yeah, you're just waiting for you to fail, that you sort of drive you. And but there's no one person in particular. I do. I've dealt with people that have got bigger businesses over the years, because that makes your mind think bigger and bigger as well. So but there's, I don't know, you get things from people that have small businesses, and you get some really cool ideas and mindset changes from people that have got big businesses, so and then people that are really smart in the corporate and from the corporate side as well. They've all got their story, and they've all got their strong points that you've just got to, I suppose you have to be a bit of a sponge, right, and just try and take the good out of everything. So
100%, yeah, for sure. Great answer. What excites you the most about the future of your business?
Well, finally, just about, we'll talk about beginning with the end in mind. My goal was always to build New Zealand products, or to New Zealand products and brands, and sell them to the world. And we've finally got to that stage now that there's 3 or 4 brands that will be exported to quite a few countries in the next 6 months, and that's pretty exciting from my point of view. But I love dealing with New Zealand businesses as well, and so very patriotic. But yeah, to be able to grow to make some really cool products and brands in New Zealand, and sell them to the world, really drives me. And that's the biggest change in our whole group. This year we've just purchased a winery that goes through tomorrow, actually, and they've got export channels into Japan, South Korea, China, and Hong Kong. So that's going to open up our other beverages as well into those markets. And then the US is coming on board, the UAE is coming on board. So there's all these really cool things happening, and but yeah, feel a little bit out of control again, really. So which is sort of good and bad, I suppose. Yeah.
You're like, here we go again. But Global Endeavours Group, I love the name, but also that it was sort of the intention and passion from the get-go. It sounds like, when you started, you realized, I want to be able to, sell to the world and champion New Zealand's products, I guess, as well, across, on a global stage, which is really cool. How did it feel to have that idea from the start, and not only just seeing it come to pass now, but having to wait, or not wait, but like actually for it to take time? I'm sure you said at the start, it's like not an impatient person, but someone that's like, come on, let's go. Yeah. How's that process been of like the in-between?
Yeah, I mean, it's all part of the journey, right? Like it's, well, firstly, it's really nice to get to a stage where we can do this. But yeah, there's a lot of hard work that's gone into that. And I suppose it's just about being, walking before we run and all the rest of it. So we've done things in a little bit of a, probably a different way. Like there's some people that, marketers or people that are, very strong on their brand side that will go out and build a brand and then, they'll go co-manufacture, they'll get their product co-manufactured through somebody and get buy all the ingredients through somebody or and just back themselves in that sense. Whereas I suppose we've had, in a way, it's taken a lot longer, but with the luxury of having a group of businesses that are both vertically and horizontally integrated. So, you've got food ingredients that are moving into the manufacturing side, which are moving into a brand. And, even for our customers that we're co-manufacturing for, or our customers that we sell to, they may be buying from two of our businesses. They might be buying from one, they may be buying from three, so whatever it is, there's examples where we manufacture, where customers will buy food ingredients through us. It's manufactured through pure bottling, and premium liquor will distribute, or natural sugars will distribute their products. So, and that's great to help, not up and coming Kiwi businesses in that way as well. And everything we do has to be for a mutually beneficial outcome, and it needs to work for both parties. So we always look at that. But yeah, look, 13 years, I suppose it's we haven't made it yet. I'll never think we've made it. We want to build a great global business, and a great global food and beverage business, should I say, and that's about doing things right here in New Zealand and on the other side, and for export as well. But obviously we've just had COVID, and the New Zealand domestic business is more important than ever, and probably becoming more and more so.
Yeah, totally. Well, from this conversation, it's just so clear that you've built a really strong, really efficient, but healthy business that has weathered some storms. That's for sure. And I'm sure that comes from your leadership as well, and the team that you've built under you. So really inspired by this conversation, and know that others in the network, maybe just starting out or a few years into it, will be inspired by your words too, Hamish. So thanks heaps for being on the podcast. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bryar. No, appreciate it.